All right, check 1 2, check 1 2. It's Nate Shaw coming back at you, and this is another series in our building a bass line. Today we are going to talk about the dominant seventh scale. Okay, the dominant seventh scale is a super simple scale to build. Basically, in order to build the dominant seventh scale, you first need to know how to build a major scale. I'm going to work from the assumption that you do indeed know how to build a major scale. Let's take a look at the C major scale. In order to make it a dominant seventh scale, all we're doing is we're going to flat the seventh degree. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. We're going to make that flatted. Drop it down a half step, and now our scale sounds like this. Oops, sorry about that. And the reason, of course, it's called a dominant scale because the flatted 7 is found in a dominant seventh chord. Right? Rather than a major seventh chord, which would have the major seventh. We're talking about a dominant seventh. Solid. Now that we know what a dominant seventh scale is, we're going to challenge ourselves with two simple exercises. The first is going to be just to play the dominant seventh chord in the left hand and the scale in the right hand. So let's go ahead and play that C dominant seventh. I'm going to play just a nice root position, and I'm going to play the scale in the right hand up and down. Simple, and I'm going to challenge myself with a nice little groove track. Right? Up and down. Now, remember, the method to mastering anything is make sure that you modulate, all right? Can I try this in different keys? Can I figure out a D dominant seventh scale? D major scale, and then I'm going to flat that seventh. So I've got it. Now I'm going to turn on my groove track and test myself. Totally doable. Now, keep in mind, I am not playing it fast. I'm not running scales. That's not the point. The reason you don't practice things fast is your ears, which is exactly what we're trying to train, our ears can't keep up, right? If we move quickly, regardless of whether our fingers can do it, our ears aren't ready for that. This is a new sound, and we're trying to build that sound into a word in our musical language or a new vocabulary word that we can file in our, in our mind and be able to retrieve in the future. So our ears need to hear that sound nice and slowly. Okay, solid. So I'm going to challenge myself to play that dominant scale on the right hand, but I'm also going to challenge myself to play the dominant scale on the left hand. Check this out. And one note on fingerings is that it's going to follow, in this case, the exact same fingerings as the major scale. Exact same fingerings. Now let's put a groove track on, and we're going to up the ante a little bit. And one of the steps in method to mastery of anything that we want to file away and be able to retrieve musically is adding a coordination element. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a nice little groove in the chord hand, a little Charleston. Right? Nothing too crazy, but enough of a groove that it's going to challenge my knowledge of the dominant seventh scale. Right? So again, adding a coordination element challenges how well do we actually know whatever it is we're learning. So if we were now to combine that coordination element with playing it in 3 or 4 different keys, in the key of D dominant seventh or E dominant seventh or G dominant seventh, then that would really show that, yeah, we know this dominant seventh scale and we're ready to move to the next step. Okay, what we're going to do now is apply that new dominant 7th scale to our bass lines in the left hand. So, our bass line now probably sounds a lot like this. 1, 2, check it out now. Predominantly, it's made up of chord tones. Root, 5th, root, 5th, and that's it. We're building our bass line, or we're deriving our bass line entirely from notes found in the chord we're outlining, the C dominant 7th. But now what we're going to do is we're going to start filling in the gaps between those chord tones. We're going to fill in the gaps between the chord tones with notes from the dominant scale. In this case, it's a C dominant scale. Check it out. Here's just the left hand. Root, 5th, root. Now I'm going to fill it in. Root, fill, 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 fill. I'm filling in the left hand with notes from the C dominant scale. If I add that right hand, okay, so you can see all of a sudden your bass line takes on a whole new life because you're playing on all 4 beats in the measure and you're using really great note choices for how to play that bass line. Final challenge of the day for you. Final challenge is, can you play that bass line like we were just outlining, but can you do it over the 3 chords in a C blues? Check it out. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Four chord. 1 chord. 5 chord. 4 chord. 1 chord. Alright, that's it for today. Build yourself a super swinging bass line.